We'll get that CFL story from Hawk a little bit later, perhaps. Countdown to camp is on, and we're just 15 days away from the first team's rookies reporting. That would be the Ravens rookies. So, Hawk, if you can still hear me, is this year Josh Allen's best chance to win a Super Bowl?
Yes, it is his best chance because this is the best version of Josh Allen that we've seen. And then next year will be an even better chance because last year was kind of phase 3, year 1 of phase 3 for Josh Allen. When he first got in the league, unmolded version. Then Diggs comes. He has a little direction. Last year, he played mistake-free football. I think he's only going to get better, and we're going to see that this season.
All right, Mike Tannenbaum, who should start for the Cleveland Browns at quarterback?
Joe Flacco, we're looking at him right here, guys. 191 career regular season starts, and their schedule is remarkably different. They start off with Cincinnati, Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, and Minnesota. Look, Shedeur, Sanders, or Dylan Gabriel, they're 2 rookie quarterbacks, maybe their future. But as the ultimate bridge quarterback with that sort of brutal start, let's go with Joe Flacco and all those starts.
All right, Hawk, one more for you. Speaking of bridge quarterbacks, will Aaron Rodgers, make the playoffs in what is presumed to be his final season?
I think he will make the playoffs. I think we're going to see a version of Aaron Rodgers that we haven't seen in the last few years. He's going to be playing loose. He's going to be asked just to play quarterback, not be the head coach, not be the GM, not be the PR director. And I think that version of Aaron Rodgers is going to mesh well with what Pittsburgh has, and they've upgraded a lot of their positions. I think he's going to enjoy it so well that the Steelers fan base is going to embrace him, and that it actually won't be his last year. I think he comes back for one more.
Ooh, interesting. What do you think, Mike T? Can Rodgers be elite this year at age 41/42?
No, and I think he's the 3rd best quarterback, best case scenario in the division. We just talked about Cleveland uncertainty, but when you look at Joe Burrow, you look at Lamar Jackson, I just think at this point, despite a legendary career, I think Aaron Rodgers' best case scenario is the 3rd best quarterback. Sprinkle on the fact that he just signed. I'm a big believer for first-year quarterbacks being in the offseason program. Look, give him credit for playing, but I just don't see this working out, especially, as you said, Graz, being 42 in December.
Jeremy Fowler, I know you're talking to people in Pittsburgh. What are you hearing about Aaron Rodgers and their expectations there?
Well, Dan, you mentioned bridge. This bridge behind me encapsulates the Steelers' last 4 years at quarterback. They are downright giddy just to have a viable option right now. The fact that they have somebody who can work the line of scrimmage, who can make the throws. They feel like, despite a little bit of mobility issues, that he still has the goods. Coaches I've talked to around the league believe that Rodgers was actually very good last year, and he'll be even better year 2 coming off the Achilles tear. And meanwhile, the Steelers are going to try to hit the 2026 draft really hard. That's a loaded quarterback class. So Rodgers simply buys them a year. They can get their guy of the future next year.
Yeah, and they have other issues, though, on that team. Where, Jeremy, they're talking to T.J. Watt about a contract extension, still not done as we head toward training camp. What are you hearing on that?
Well, Dan, I'm hearing that there is some level of optimism among the Pittsburgh Steelers that they can get this done despite the obscene money that they're going to have to pay. My sense, talking to people around the league, is that he will be the highest pass rusher in the NFL by the end of the summer if they can get this done. We're talking in excess of $40 million per year. Watt wants to be a Steeler for life. That's what the Steelers want. So they'll probably hash this out closer to training camp, but they do want to try to get this done.
Yeah, to me, this is a have-to-have. You don't give up a second-round pick and $30 million for DK Metcalf, sign a 40-year-old plus quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, and not take care of your best player who's a homegrown Hall of Famer. So I got to think this deal's going to get done. And as we talked about last week, guys, like there's so many of these defensive ends out there from Micah Parsons, T.J. Watt, Trey Hendrickson. Like there's going to be, if I'm any of these teams, I want to go first because this market's going to go up in the coming weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots to watch on that front. Hawk, I know you said you're optimistic about Rodgers finding something he hasn't had the last couple of years. In terms of the Steelers, you expect them to be a factor here in a loaded AFC?
I do. I like this conference. I think there's 3 teams that make the playoffs out of the AFC North. And to Mike T's point, yes, Aaron Rodgers is the 3rd best quarterback in the division, but I would argue with the exception of 1, maybe 2 quarterbacks, every quarterback that would go into that division would be the 3rd best quarterback. So that's why I'm hopeful for him. Yes, it's competitive, but the Steelers, even in down years, they find a way to split with those divisional opponents. And I like Aaron Rodgers and what he brings to the table for that franchise.
All right, much more NFL as we move along here this morning on Get Up. But there was soccer last.
As reporter Jeremy Fowler joining the program. What's the latest on a possible contract extension for number 11 right here?
Well, the Cowboys want to pay Micah Parsons. There's a lull in the action right now. I checked in on it. There's not a lot going on because it's in the summer doldrums. Closer to training camp, expect this to heat up. Dallas is dedicated to trying to pay Micah Parsons. The problem is his money's only going up. We're seeing pass rush money go to that $40 million threshold. TJ Watt in Pittsburgh trying to get paid. He's only going to make that number go upwards. So Dallas is going to have to pay. It's not only about the big number. They're willing to do that, but it's about how many years in the contract and the guaranteed money. Those are going to be sort of sticking points that they have to work through. And also keep in mind with Dallas, they have Tyler Smith, one of the best young guards in the NFL. They're watching that guard market closely. He's eligible for a contract, so they got two guys they got to handle here.
It's an absolute arms race in the NFC East when you take a look at the landscape and everybody trying to add as much offensively and defensively. Let's start with the Eagles and another star pass rusher who could be in for a payday themselves.
Well, I'm going to forecast this early with Jalen Carter because he's becoming a superstar in the league, one of the best young interior defensive linemen. After this year, he will be eligible for a contract, and the Eagles love to pay their stars early. They have a penchant for it. They're trying to get ahead of that big money in the market. And the thing is, the Eagles feel like he's only scratching the surface, that he can win more one-on-one opportunities, put up even bigger sack numbers. If he does that, he is going to strain their books on the contract front because that money will be big. But he's a player to watch for sure this year. Then you got the Commanders, so they made a lot of splash moves. They've added Laramie Tunsil. They've added Deebo Samuel. Can they add one more at pass rusher? That's one position where they're thin. There are a lot of free agents out there that could make sense. Zadarius Smith still out there. Von Miller, so a lot of pedigree. Typically these players wait till closer to training camp and we'll see if Washington makes a move. It wouldn't surprise if they at least look into it, see what their options are. And you got the Giants. You see Jackson Dart there. So Giants are excited about this guy, no doubt. Like, they feel like he's done two things this offseason. He's proven he's a fast learner, and he's proven that he's highly motivated. He's also ingratiated himself in the locker room, with the quarterback room. He's like one of the guys. So this is trending well. They feel like things clicked for him late in OTAs, going into mini camp. So he's got a little bit of momentum. Now, most people around the league that I talked to going through the draft, they felt like he's a project, that he probably needs a year to sit. But as we know, the Giants got to win, and they got to prove something. So Russell Wilson, look, he's in a prime position to start. But Dart is coming along. He's been impressive so far.
All right, we mentioned the Cowboys' 30-year Super Bowl drought, but again, this is the NFC East. There hasn't been a back-to-back winner in that conference since 2000.
AFC North, with Baltimore heavily favored to win their third straight division title, according to ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Jeremy Fowler has more on Shedeur Sanders and the rest of the division.
Well, the Cleveland Browns have been happy with Shedeur Sanders' development thus far. They felt like in the spring he was throwing with conviction, aggressively, willing to throw in tight windows. They even liked the way that he acquitted himself with the media in Berea. But he did get a lot of backup reps, a lot of seven-man defenses coming his way, no pass rush. So he's got a lot to show in training camp. The Browns, really, their goal in the spring was to just get the four quarterbacks as many reps as they could. Now it's about crystallizing the depth chart in late July. Veteran Joe Flacco should figure prominently in that process. Now let's go over to the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson and Baltimore have had exploratory contract talks. That's great news for the Ravens. He has 3 years left on his deal, but Baltimore clearly would like to get ahead of that ballooning quarterback market where guys are getting obscene money now. We saw it with the Bills back in March. They laid a blueprint for Baltimore when they signed Josh Allen to a 6-year, $330 million deal, despite him having multiple years left on his current contract. Jackson, however, has proved to be a shrewd negotiator from his last time representing himself as his own agent. We'll see what happens there. And you got the Pittsburgh Steelers, TJ Watt. Steelers, I'm sensing, are optimistic that they can reach a deal with Watt eventually. My sense is that he will probably be the highest paid pass rusher in the league when this is all said and done. He wants to be a Steeler for life. The Steelers want that. He's a legacy type player. They believe at 30 years old he still has several good years left. They're just going to have to come up with a number and a good guarantee structure. He did miss minicamp, so there's a lot of work to do, but typically Pittsburgh perks up on these things around training camp in late July. And you have contract-wise Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals. This one is probably the stickiest. So both sides did resume contract talks fairly recently. It has not